Among the most legendary artifacts of Tamriel are many pieces of Dwemer make. From the tools of Kagrenak to the comparatively simple Dwemer puzzle cube, they left us many wondrous and powerful devices. Few are as difficult to track down as our quarry today, as the lengths one must go to and the degree to which the artifact is obscured in Morrowind leave it well out of reach of the casual adventurer. But no obstacle is too great when it comes to tracking down rare and valuable items, not for seasoned Morrowind explorers like us. Today, we're tracking down the fabled shield Spellbreaker. This shield dates back to circa First Era 400, when history records it in the possession of King Rorken, a Dwemer lord under King Dumak. Rorken used this shield in the War of Rorken-Shalador, which, as the name implies, was a war between the Dwemer king and the legendary Nord mage Shalador. King Rorken used Spellbreaker to break Shalador's spells. I'm beginning to think the scribes of the First Era weren't exactly what you would call big brains when it came to naming things. The enchantments on Spellbreaker have fluctuated a bit over the millennia, or less apparently, since as recently as 40 years ago during the events of the Elder Scrolls Arena, the shield carried the ability to completely reflect any magic and silence the caster to boot. 16 years later in Daggerfall, it had lost its ability to silence opponents, though still functioned as a proper ward against any magic it encountered. Fast forward to today, and we find that the shield is once again changed, and not just its enchantment, but also its form. There were minor changes made to the design between Arena and Daggerfall, but these amounted to a fresh coat of paint compared to the dramatic change we see in Morrowind. It's hard to see this as even being the same artifact, as it was previously associated with Valenwood and later Hircine. Now we find it on the other side of the continent, tossed aside in a Dwemer ruin. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get underway and we can learn more about Spellbreaker as we go. Our journey today starts from Voss. Tel Voss. Either one really, they're practically the same place. We're headed into the interior of Ardenfell, to Red Mountain itself. If you were to draw a line between Voss and Aldrune, you'd cross over the ghost fence just south of our destination. This is probably as good a time as any to tell you that in order to go get Spellbreaker, we have to be on a specific, obscure quest we get from a vampire in a tomb deep inside the ghost fence. A quest we can only do if we ourselves are a vampire. Why not just go straight to where the shield is, dummy, you might be saying? Well, it isn't that simple. The artifact isn't spawned into the game until you're on this quest. So you can see why the prospect of getting Spellbreaker is for some a bit of a deal breaker. Once we hop the fence into this restricted area, we're fair game for the ashholes who call this place home. Fun fact, vampirism does not protect you from ash diseases, so there's a fun turd to add to your punch bowl. My recommendation is to avoid them like the plague they are and run straight for Salval Ancestral Tomb. Once inside, we'll be greeted by the door guard, a bone walker, followed by the receptionist, also a bone walker. Downstairs is Jerry in accounting. You guessed it, a bone walker. Delving deeper into the tomb reveals another bone walker. In the penultimate room, we'll find, wait for it, one last bone walker. With all of the bone walkers out of the way, we can continue on through this door. I said we can continue on through this door. Well, this is no good. Looks like we're a little stuck. Seems like this guy is a bit of a cell breaker. Our quest giver is quite literally standing in our way. Mastrius has been alone in there so long he just refuses to allow anyone into his room or speak to someone face to face. I had to actually leave the tomb and come back in. While we were gone, he moved his pile of Monster Energy cans out of the way and deleted his search history before finally letting us inside. Speaking to him reveals that he's a prisoner here. Azura, in a not-so-rare direct meddling in the affairs of Mundus, locked him up in here because he sucked the life out of everyone around him. Clearly the Mistress of Dawn and Dusk didn't take kindly to him treating perfectly good potential worshippers like Capri Suns and sealed him away in this tomb. He begins to tell us how he has a plan to break out, but he needs our help, and he offers us an opportunity to rule the galaxy together as father and son, or something like that. I was done listening to his sob story. Just give me the shopping list. He needs us to go to the store and pick up a fresh Daedra heart. Thankfully, I brought one with me from the Clan Quora Vampire Lair. If you missed that video, you should consider subscribing so you get alerts for new videos every week. The other thing he needs us to pick up is the Dwemer / Daedric Shield Spellbreaker. No points for guessing that one. He tells me to go to a place up north outside the gated community, across the tracks to the rough neighborhood that is the northern Ashlands, in a Dwemer ruin known as Bithwand, near the coast. He implies that the former owner of the shield died nearby, but doesn't indicate what killed him, so we should be on our guard going in. Task in hand, we can set out for the northern coast. Hopefully you brought some levitation or jump magic to get back over the ghost fence. If you didn't, and don't want to use one of the many ash creature-infested secret tunnels that the Sixth House uses, you can use Divine Intervention from inside or just outside the tomb to be transported directly to Voss. It's a longer walk, but over flatter terrain, so it's easier overall. I'm going to assume that you're heading directly to Bithwand and go north-northwest from Solville Ancestral Tomb, through the ash and dust, over the ghost fence with its depictions of Almsevi carved into its pillars, past the secluded Cavern of the Incarnate and towering Zergonapal, finally arriving at the Dwemer Citadel of Bithwand. Now, I need to warn you before we get inside. As you may have realized by now, I'm a bit partial to Scribs. The fetcher who designed this dungeon, however, was not. Inside this wretched place, we'll come across many Scribs, which is great. Unfortunately, most of them have been killed by the Dwemer spiders who roam the halls. Many still remain, and I make it my imperative to smash their heartless metal arachnids before any more Scribs get hurt. With all of our Thumpy boys safely screeching away, we can get back to business. In this room at the back of the delve, we'll find the dead adventurer we were told about. The two-handed wooden staff is an odd choice of weapon for someone who supposedly carried Spellbreaker, and the shield itself is all the way over here behind a rock with no explanation as to why it's so far away. Talk about an immersion breaker. Once we have our prize, we can go back to Mastrius. For some strange reason, the door was broken and wouldn't close behind me. Oh, and Mastrius was bugged out for me and wouldn't accept that I had the goods. So now we can add Questbreaker to the list as well. Okay, that was the last one, I swear. What's supposed to happen is Mastrius takes the Daedra Heart and Spellbreaker, then tells us he needs just a tiny little bit of our strength and proceeds to drain us of half of our health and fatigue. Then attacks us. So we can just cut to the chase here and shiv this kid, which I did. With Mastrius dead and already in a tomb, we can call this a job well done and walk away with his ebony pauldrons as well as one of the best shields in the game, sporting both its silence enchantment ranged at 30 feet for 30 seconds and reflect 10 to 20% for 30 seconds. Not bad for one night's work. This video was a little longer so I could relay a bit more lore than usual, and there's always more lore to be uncovered. So if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments and we'll go from there. Until next time, I've been Gitshiver. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Later.